coming up on today's Locked On Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw is back. The Dodgers signed a utility infielder, and we're excited just in the fact that the Dodgers are back. So that's what's on tap. So make sure to keep it Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And for an even easier experience, subscribe in all those places and never miss a day because you know we're not going to. If this is your first time listening or watching, I'm Vince Samperio, Chavez Green Fiends. That's Jeff Snider of Baseball Essential. And we are lifelong Dodger fans just like you, but we've also spent some time covering the team in the press box and locker room. We're not quite insiders, but we are bringing you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. So go ahead and subscribe wherever you want, whether it's audio, video, or both, which would be ideal. And let's talk Dodgers. All right, Jeff. So we had a weekend. Freddie Freeman is not yet a Dodger, but he is also not yet a member of any other team. So the hope is still alive there. But biggest news in Dodgerland, other than them just being back, which we'll get into a little bit later in the show, just the excitement of that. Clayton Kershaw has returned, 1-year deal. He did admit that it came down to the Dodgers and Rangers, but that the Dodgers gave him the best chance for another World Series, and the prodigal son has returned.
Yeah, I guess technically he never really left. I guess hitting free agency is halfway out the door. But yeah, I mean, basically it came down to exactly what you and I have been saying for months, that when push comes to shove, Clayton Kershaw wants to win. He's a competitor. And at this stage in his career, it didn't seem likely to me that he was going to want to go to a rebuilding team, even though the Rangers have made some big splashes this season or this offseason. They're still in a division with the Astros and the Mariners, who are also trying, and the Angels, who have two of the best players in baseball on their team and might eventually learn how to do something with that. And so, yeah, I actually had the thought last week, and Kershaw kind of confirmed it, that I wondered if the lockout would help Kershaw come back to the Dodgers, because some of it is just, he's been at home in Texas, and I would guess that at this stage of his life, well, yeah, it's fun being home and stuff. Like, I imagine he was starting to get antsy and think, I need to be off playing baseball. And what he knows of being off playing baseball is spring training in Arizona with the Dodgers, and then playing in LA. And, that at this stage he wants to win. And so it made sense. And I couldn't be happier. As you know, I'm a little bit of a Clayton Kershaw fan.
Yeah, just a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it obviously helps the Dodgers. They still don't have necessarily a full rotation. They have enough players that can fill the full rotation, but realistically, they have 4 right now, and then it would come down to a rookie or a Tony Gonsolin, David Price type, which you don't know what you're going to get. So it helps them on that front. Obviously, it helps that Clayton Kershaw's back in terms of legacy. Andrew Friedman said that he was the #1 priority. They obviously, Kershaw even talked about the fact, and we talked about this before, of them not offering the qualifying offer, which seem like just a general thank you to Clayton Kershaw. Take your time, don't have to worry about it. He said that kind of helped them. The one thing we did talk about was retirement, and Kershaw said he never really considered retirement, which is kind of what makes a 1-year deal, interesting in this case. It doesn't seem like it's a 1-year deal, like a farewell tour. Even if it was, I don't think Kershaw would announce it because he wouldn't want that. But also it does seem like kind of a health thing. Like, okay, if he's healthy and can get through this year, then, maybe he'll want to play out a little bit longer contract after that. But, he has had injury issues so far in the past few years. Obviously last year, the season ended in a bad way for him. So I think it's more of a, both sides were helping each other out. Kershaw was like, okay, I'll take the pay cut, $17 million, going to help the Dodgers out, I guess, if they don't want to pay more luxury tax, depending on who they go out and get. But it seemed like mutual. Okay, we didn't give you a qualifying offer. We didn't. If you weren't going to re-sign with us, we weren't going to make it harder for you to sign with someone else. And then he comes back 1 year deal and kind of not necessarily a prove it deal, but maybe just is my body going to hold up type of thing.
Yeah, and what he said was that once he knew his arm was okay, he never considered retirement. And that was kind of what we said. That for me, the only reason retirement was on the table was if he was looking at a long rehab. Something like Tommy John surgery. I still believe that if something was to happen to Clayton Kershaw that needed Tommy John surgery, I would think that he would probably retire instead of going through the year and a half. Because at this age, a year and a half, and then trying to battle back. It might not sound fun to him, but yeah, once he knew his arm was okay, it totally makes sense for him to be back. And yeah, that we talk a lot about how baseball is a business and stuff. And it seems like that's a little bit different with the Dodgers and Clayton Kershaw. Back when Kershaw signed his first lengthy contract with the Dodgers, the 7-year deal, and it had the opt-outs in it. And what was reported at the time, and who knows how accurate this is, but what Kershaw said was that the reason he wanted the opt-outs was because if he wasn't performing the way he wanted to, he didn't want to be getting paid that much, and for me, it's easy to say for you and me who aren't making that kind of money. But I can totally see being the kind of person who, if you look at, Albert Pujols' the end of his career in Anaheim, and, different guys like that, where by the end of their career, that it's just like, oh, we're paying this dude how much to just suck, and I could see a competitor like Kershaw not wanting to be in that situation. And so, at least some degree of him asking for the opt-outs in that original contract was in fairness to the Dodgers. And so then when the Dodgers kind of not necessarily returned the favor, but showed that same respect, like you said, by not giving him the qualifying offer, I think Kershaw realizes that Kershaw and Dodgers isn't just business.
Yeah. Sticking with starting pitching, there was a few targets that the Dodgers had that are no longer targets. Two of them via trade. Sonny Gray went to the Twins. Chris Bassett went to the Mets. And then one that we had just talked about, Carlos Rodon, went to the Giants. So that significantly closes 3 doors on 3 starting pitchers. Andrew Friedman mentioned that right now the kind of trade market and free agent market is like trying to drink water through a fire hose. So it's crazy, intense, lot going on. But I don't know what exactly they have in mind or up their sleeve in terms of starting pitching. I know that's still something that Andrew Friedman said they're going to prioritize because just of the kind of going to be a shorter spring training, and still everybody's still kind of recovering from 2020 and everything else after that. So yeah, I would imagine there's still stuff to be done in terms of starting pitching.
Yeah, and the Sonny Gray trade might actually open the door a little bit. It kind of further pushes the Reds into full-on rebuild mode, which opens the door for maybe Luis Castillo or Tyler Mahle to come over to the Dodgers in a trade. Obviously, both of those guys are going to be sought after by every other team that's looking for starting pitching too. One of the reasons the Dodgers still need starting pitching is because we still don't know what Rob Manfred and his people were doing during those 6 weeks of the lockout that they weren't talking to the players union. But apparently it wasn't thinking about Trevor Bauer, because they just announced that they are extending Trevor Bauer's administrative leave while they try to figure out what to do with him. Andrew Friedman said he has no idea what the timeline is for that. And, it's kind of ridiculous to me that it's still dragging on at this point.
Yeah, it's extended at least a week. We don't know exactly when we're going to get resolution there. And Andrew Friedman and Dave Roberts didn't really speak on it just because they can't really speak on it because they don't know. So, yeah, still resolution there. And then once we do find that resolution, then we'll see what the Dodgers end up doing or what ended up happening there. But we're going to talk about somebody else the Dodgers signed, a utility infielder, Hanser Alberto, kind of what that means for the roster and kind of the future of the rest of this shorter or not rest of offseason. I guess there's no offseason. It's just season and free agency now. But first, let's talk BetOnline. BetOnline, it's that time of year again. Today was Selection Sunday as we're recording. College basketball's tournament finally upon us. And for all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the #1 source for all your sports betting info, and needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And not just basketball, BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. So head to the website, betonline.net, on your laptop or mobile device today. Check out all the trends, check out all the action, get in on it. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. If you need another listen to add to your day, check out Locked On MLB Prospects with host Lindsey Crosby. He's a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. All right, so the Dodgers did make a couple of signings, one major league signing, a couple minor league signings. They signed left-hander Zamora. They signed Jeffrey Almonte, minor league deals. Their bullpen seems somewhat stacked, so that's going to be a hard case for them to make the roster, but they're still at least depth, organizational depth, if they stick around. Joe Kelly signed with the White Sox, so he will not be returning to the Dodgers. Joe Kelly had him and Juan Uribe might have some of the more interesting Dodger careers in terms of fans hating them coming in, fans hating them probably still a little bit as they were with the Dodgers, and then ended up becoming really big fan favorites. But the one signing they did make, Hanser Alberto, a utility infielder. Dodgers signed him to a one-year deal with an option. Jeff, I'll give you some time if you want to talk about Joe Kelly, and then we'll get into Hanser Alberto and what it means for the Dodgers. Mute. You're on mute, Jeff.
Oh, you want to hear my voice while I talk?
Yeah, that might help.
Sorry about that. Joe Kelly, I'm sad to see him go, but I don't know. It's not that big a deal to me. I think the Dodgers still have a lot of firepower in the bullpen. Kelly was really good when he was good, but he also wasn't extremely consistent. And, a little bit of a roller coaster ride when he was in the game. Obviously, he endeared himself to Dodger fans with some of his antics between the Carlos Correa incident and the mariachi jacket incidents, plural. So yeah, I have fond memories of Joe Kelly. I've got 2 Joe Kelly bobbleheads right there. Anyway, I'm not good at pointing on camera. But good for the White Sox, good for Joe Kelly. The White Sox, the offer they gave him, I wouldn't have wanted the Dodgers matching that. And so, farewell, Joe Kelly, good luck and everything. As for Hanser Alberto, this is an interesting one to me because it kind of opens up a lot of questions about the Dodgers roster construction, simply because, like right now, if you look at with the DH, the Dodgers starting 9 as of right now, when we don't know what's going to happen with Freddie Freeman or Jorge Soler or anybody else, but what they have right now, their best starting 9 lineup leaves them with the bench of Austin Barnes and a bunch of lefties. Basically, you got Matt Beatty, you got Zach McKinstry, you've got Edwin Rios, and that's basically it. If you figure 13 position players, 13 pitchers, that's with the DH. You only got a 4-man bench, and one of them is a backup catcher. So you got 3 guys, and they're all lefties, which means that's why a guy like Hanser Alberto, who's a right-handed hitter, makes sense. And he's clearly a platoon guy. He doesn't hit righties well at all, but he hits lefties really well. And so he makes sense, but it makes you wonder, okay, which one of those guys I just mentioned isn't going to be on the roster? Is it Zach McKinstry? Is it Matt Beatty? Or maybe they look into trading Beatty? I still think Beatty could be a starter for a team that, had different ambitions in life, I guess. McKinstry, I don't know if he still has options left or not. I assume he probably does. One more probably. And even, further down in the minors, other guys on the 40-man roster, Luke Raley, bats left-handed. James Outman, bats left-handed. Jacob Amaya is one who maybe a right-handed bat, but it kind of has me wondering. We already knew that if the Dodgers do sign Freddie Freeman, they're going to have to, trade somebody, whether it's Gavin Lux or, whoever it is. They're probably going to make a bigger roster move. But even this Alberto signing that seems minor, it's a major league deal, and I think one of these guys is probably going to end up going somewhere.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, just mainly because too so there was no real 5 draft after all. So the Dodgers ended up adding guys to the 40-man that they probably wouldn't have if it wasn't just for the fact of protecting them. So now the 40-man's full. Even with Kershaw, the only reason they added Kershaw to the official roster today was, well, not the only reason, but the easier reason was because Trevor Bauer remained on administrative leave, so they had the open spot. And in terms of like on field, Alberto is, I like the signing. As we saw last year, obviously we had uh, a lot of guys that probably shouldn't have been major league at bats, especially in key situations down the stretch and in the postseason. Hanser Alberto is not a guy that's going to win you any games with the home run, but he doesn't walk much either, but he makes contact. I mean, he hit 270 last year. I think he hit 280 the year before. And he doesn't strike out much, puts the ball in play. That's really half the time last year when the Dodgers had these guys taking at bats. They literally just needed a ball in play, a fly ball or something, and they were getting strikeouts from or weak contact from Andy Burns and Steven Souza and whoever else. Steven Souza, by the way, signed with the Mariners, so we will be seeing him at least for the time being with the Dodgers. And yeah, on field, I like the fit. Like I said, there's obviously something's going to have to happen. Something's got to give. I think they have a lot of different levers they can pull right now in terms of roster construction, and it's just going to depend on what happens. We saw that they had interest in Nelson Cruz earlier Sunday. It said it was coming down to Padres Dodgers, and he ends up signing with the Nationals. If they would have signed Nelson Cruz, I would have done a lot of different things because he's mainly just a DH. I guess he could have touched first base sometimes, but not really. But I think all the levers kind of, if Freddie Freeman signs, I think that opens up Gavin Lux to trade for starting pitching. If Freddie Freeman doesn't sign and they go after somebody like Soler, then that opens up, somebody else for something else. But I do think, either Matt Beatty or whoever else it is, their time on the team might be coming to an end, or a guy like Zach McKinstry just won't be getting that opportunity again because they won't have enough room for him.
Yeah, when we're talking about 40-man roster, you look at the current 40-man, and there's no real glaring DFA candidates. It's not, they don't have a third catcher on the 40-man roster. They used to have Rocky Gale, who's like, okay, we'll just DFA him and nobody will claim him, and we'll outright him back to AAA and put him back next time we need him, stuff like that. But if you look at the pitchers, really, it's like, I could see Darian Nunez maybe. He didn't show much last year. I don't think that would be a huge loss. He's going to be 29 years old next week on Clayton Kershaw's birthday, so it's not like he's a young prospect. And then maybe Luke Raley, but I imagine that as well as he hit in AAA last year, they would rather try to at least let him mash in AAA again and get some trade value back for him. But so yeah, the 40-man roster seems like they're going to have to do some transactions, trade some guys, because there's not really anybody who stands out as okay, we can throw this guy away, or even slip this guy through waivers and just outright him, because the guys who they just added to the 40-man because of the Rule 5 draft that didn't happen, once they're on, then they would have been better off maybe taking a risk on a guy like Michael Grove slipping through the Rule 5 draft, because he won't slip through waivers because you don't have to put a guy on the active roster if you get him on waivers.
Yeah, so it's just a matter. Yeah, there's a lot to happen in the next few days, and it's interesting because spring training started technically on Sunday. Games start next week on Friday, or this week on Friday, and a lot of teams are still in flux. You can't really, there's still Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, Freddie Freeman, those three, Chris Bryant. Those guys are still free agents. There's a lot of teams that are in flux right now, and which is why Friedman probably described it as trying to drink through a fire hose, just because there's too much going on, and a lot of, I'm not sure how many other teams have full 40-mans, but I'm sure not everyone, there's not a lot of 40-man spots available. So if you're making trades, and if, the Dodgers trying to make a trade where they're unloading like 3 guys from their 40-man in order to get one back, it might not work out if that team doesn't have 3 40-man spots. So there's a lot to go on still, and it makes me excited for this week coming up, because the Dodgers team right now is going to be different from the Dodgers team come that first game on Friday.
Yeah, one other thought I just realized, there is one easy 40-man roster spot. Now that spring training is officially starting, they can put Dustin May on the 60-day injured list, which opens up a 40-man spot. So that opens up one. But that's who they'll need for Alberto, I guess. That's that spot. And so, yeah, it's I think Tommy Kahnle and Caleb Ferguson are both too close to returning. I don't think either of them would be candidates for the 60 days. So, maybe David Price, it's in the last year of his deal, and maybe they just cut bait with him. Uh, yeah, I don't know. It will be interesting to see. And that's part of why I do expect the Dodgers to be active on the trade market, not just on free agents, because of this roster crunch.
Yeah. Speaking of trimming things down, if you want to trim down, Built Bars can help you out because Built Bars are the best tasting protein bars. But not only are they the best tasting protein bars, but they are really good for you. They're low calorie, low carb, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, everything you could want in a candy bar, but also with the macros of a protein bar. So you need to go to built.com, check out all the flavors they got. They have a bunch of different flavors. They are always adding flavors. You can create a box and have multiple flavors and to try them out and see which one's your favorite. You can check out Built Puffs, which are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. Those are really good. Now, I tell you that Built Bars taste like candy bars. Built Puffs taste even more like candy bars, and they have the same great macros: low calorie, low sugar, low carbs, high protein. So go to built.com, check them all out, get what you need, and you can get 15% off right now with the promo code LOCKED15. You just go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. All right, let's finish up here. I think we touched on everything that happened over the weekend in terms of transactions. There was a lot of moves made in terms of around baseball. One that I guess could theoretically affect it is that the Yankees traded for Josh Donaldson, and they traded and the infielder Isaiah something, I forget his name, but yeah, but that adds a lot of money to them, which means they could take him out of Freddie Freeman, although they were still named as someone that's looking for a left-handed first baseman. But that's one thing. Freddie Freeman on Friday, it looked like he was going to sign by Saturday, and then Saturday when the time came, it looked like he was not ready to sign. So we're still waiting on that. But I just wanted to talk about how, obviously we were waiting for baseball to be back, or waiting for MLB to come back, we're waiting for the Dodgers. But I don't know. I guess I had taken it for granted a little bit for me personally, because once I saw guys coming in, once I saw the content coming in, once I saw guys in the locker room, in the clubhouse, on the field, taking batting practice, everything else, I'm extremely hyped for this season now. And like I said, obviously this week there's going to be some changes to the roster, you would imagine, but just in general, like seeing everybody out there, seeing Mookie Betts, seeing Cody Bellinger, seeing Max Muncy in the cage, we'll talk about him right now too. I'm excited for this season already, and I'm ready for April 7th or 8th for the Dodgers.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we said during the lockout, like if they get this solved, that will fix a lot of the hurt feelings that have been caused the last couple months. And this is why, because once baseball's back, then we just start thinking about baseball. And, we forget all the crap that happened, and we're just thinking, awesome, spring training's back. And it's a short spring training. So we won't even have time to get tired of spring training this year. It's just going to go straight into the season. We're looking at a more normal season, probably. Cities are starting to lift their mask bans and stuff, or mask mandates. So, chances are we're going to have, even last year we got a full season, but we didn't get a full season of fans in the stands. The first almost half the season was half capacity or less. And so, it's going to be a lot more like a regular season. Joe and Oral are going out on the road with the team. We're looking at our first normal season since 2019. And so the fact that it's delayed by a week and extended by 3 days and a couple extra double headers, other than that, it's a normal season. And, I'm with you. Like you take it for granted. You don't really think so much, but I didn't realize the reason I've been in a bad mood for the last 3 months is because of the lockout. But now my kids like me again. My wife almost likes me again. Like there's so many good things. Like I'm just happier now. And it's because nothing important has happened. We've saw Mookie Betts on his knees taking short hop grounders, which made me think, oh, maybe they're thinking about him at second base a little bit. And then, sweet, I'm thinking about baseball. I'm not thinking about stupid labor disputes and definitions of terms. And he said in the stupid media, and what a moron Rob Manfred is. I'm just thinking about, I wonder if Mookie Betts is going to play some second base this year. And I would much rather think about that than Rob Manfred and the stupid gap in his teeth.
Yeah, and that's talking about it. I mean, we get to talk about actual events and things regarding the Dodgers now, not just you know updating on the labor dispute and trying to find time. We got to talk about actual things. One of those actual things, like I mentioned, Max Muncy. Dave Roberts said he's about 85% should be ready for opening day. Max Muncy corroborated that story, saying he's around that percentage wise, should be ready for opening day. We saw him in the cage. We saw him, looking when I mean, it wasn't taking crazy cuts, but he looked like Max Muncy, and he says he's gonna be ready to go. He's gonna be ready to go, which is a big boost. He's already been a couple. He's been a couple times quoted as on the Freddie Freeman train, trying to saying that he would be hyped for it. And obviously, why wouldn't you want to add him to the lineup? He like we talked about last week, that he mentioned that he kind of prefers second base defensively. He says he likes the view he gets and how he sees the ball coming off the bat and everything else. So yeah, Max Muncy, that's already a good sign. I mean, you built the Dodgers lineup right now, and it's almost an all-star at every position still. And then you keep thinking of that, adding Freddie Freeman or even somebody else that they go out and get if they wanted to, or even like a Jorge Soler, who we can talk about it a little bit too. But you just think, and that's another reason you get excited. You're like, yo, this Dodgers are this lineup stacked. The bullpen's going to be legit. Starting pitching's a real only question mark, but even then, you're going to see Buehler, Julio, and Kershaw 3 out of every 5 days. I mean, there's really not too much to be upset about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can't be overstated how important it is to a daily Dodgers podcast to have actual baseball to talk about. This is a big deal for us, Jorge Soler, I love that idea. He's got a ton of power. He's one of the best looking guys in baseball. That I probably shouldn't matter as much to a straight married guy like me as it does, but it's a gap we've had. There's some good looking guys, but I think Jorge Soler is the front runner in my bracket this year if the Dodgers sign him. And yeah, there's room for him. The one guy who doesn't fit in my mind, even though a lot of people on social media seem to want him, Jock Peterson seems to have taken his free agency public, and a lot of people saying come back to the Dodgers. I don't see a fit there. Am I missing something, Vince?
I mean, the only fit would be if you put him in the platoon in left field or get him in DH spots, but at that point you have to cut bait with somebody like a Beatty or someone else, and it just depends how you feel. Last year, I think it did feel like more of a fit because, like I said, they just didn't have quality talent to come off the bench. This year, they do have a little bit more quality talent. Obviously, maybe Edwin Rios, Matt Beatty aren't as established as Jack Peterson, but they also could be as established or as good as he brings. So, yeah, obviously, Jock is beloved and has continued to become beloved, especially even though he was beating us with the Braves, people still seem to like him after the fact and everything else. But yeah, I definitely don't think he's a fit anymore. And especially if you're comparing that to Jorge Soler, I'm taking Jorge Soler any day of the week at this point.
Yeah, I love Jock, and I wouldn't be sad if he came back, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah. But I mean, everything else that we've seen, the minor league guys got their shine, but Sujo's out in Arizona and the major league guys are back, and we already got them walking in. We got stuff coverage from everywhere else. Fabian Ardaya had that video of Kershaw running out to the cheers of the crowd that was at Camelback, which was super dope. So yeah, man, it was just an exciting weekend seeing everybody back, and now I'm ready. Like I said, spring training games start on Friday. We'll start seeing some of these guys in action, and I don't know. I can't underestimate or overstate, whatever you want to say. I can't. How excited I am! I can't even stumbling on the words. How excited I am!
Yeah, excitement makes it hard to talk sometimes, and that's okay, Vince. It's not like we talk for a living on this show or anything.
Yeah. All right. I think we covered everything. The one thing maybe we didn't talk about was the non-roster invitees. I don't think there was any surprises. Some good stuff with Andy Pajes, Miguel Vargas, guys that we talked about in terms of prospects, guys that you talked about with Keith Law last week in terms of prospects that are going to be there in Major League camp, which is always a good sign, learning from the major leaguers, getting some time with the big league guys, asking questions, whatever else it is. But I think we covered everything. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add or that we missed. And if not, we'll make sure to talk about it tomorrow, and we'll have more stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we do this every day. So if we miss something, we'll get it tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have some free agency and or trade news to talk about tomorrow.
Yeah. So I guess one note, Padres were aggressively shopping Will Myers and Eric Hosmer. So
Aggressively begging somebody to take Eric Hosmer's contract off their hands. Yeah, the thing that really jumped out at me about that I didn't realize was Hosmer has 10-5 rights after this coming season. And so he would have a full no trade clause after this coming season. So it makes sense they're going to want to dump him if they can get. But I mean, really, the question is, how many prospects do we have to give you to take Eric Hosmer? And yeah, it's a rough situation, almost as if maybe when nobody else was going after him when he was a free agent, maybe they should have taken a hint from that.
yeah, but yeah, we're a Dodge podcast, but that's just anytime we can add a little jab at the Padres, we're gonna take it if we can. So that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for checking out Locked On Dodgers. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to follow us on social media. We are on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vince Samperio. DMs are open on all those accounts. You can also leave us a voicemail or send us a text to 323-863-LOCK. That's 5625. Or you can always send us an email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us when you get in your car or if you're at home. Take smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.